Hey everyone, Hex here with my Boros Fires Explorer Best of 1 deck. So I've been working on this deck for a couple of days now and I thought I'd share my initial thoughts and show some gameplay footage using it. I'm using Fires of Invention in a Boros shell in Explorer, which is a 4-mana enchantment that says you can only cast no more than 2 spells per turn, only on your turn, and you can only cast spells less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana costs. The limitations of this card does make for some interesting card choices and gameplay, but it's a fun card when you're able to have it stick around for a few turns. So I'm running one copy of Cavalier of Dawn, which is a 5-mana vigilant creature that when it ETBs destroys up to one target non-land permanent. That controller then creates a 3/3 golem, but when Cavalier dies you're able to return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. Obviously we can target any fires in our graveyard, but we're also running 4 copies of Fable of the Mirror Breaker as well, and a couple of copies of Showdown of the Skulls. Another card that goes well with the Fable is Cavalier of Flame, which is another 5-cost creature, but when this one ETBs, you get to discard as many cards as you want and draw that many. Most importantly, when this creature dies, it deals X damage to each opponent and Planeswalker, where X is the amount of lands in your graveyard. The second chapter of Fable allows us to discard 2, and so if we're able to use the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki on this card, the copy will sacrifice itself and at the end of turn hit our opponent for some damage. I chose not to use any lands that actually sacrifice themselves to keep my untapped count as high as possible, but if I decide to play more of these cards going forward, I'll definitely consider doing this. The Cavalier can also be pumped to give +1/+0 and haste to all creatures, which is a great mana sink for utilising any untapped mana you have on your turn, as you don't seem to be spending it within this deck. We have 2 copies of Terror of the Peaks, which is a must-answer threat. Otherwise, our opponents run the risk of losing their creatures or a lot of their own health. 2 copies of Urabrask Heretic Praetor, which is a 4/4 hasty Praetor that allows you to exile the top card of your library in your upkeep and play it that turn if you wish. This with fires on the battlefield is a great way for a small amount of card advantage each turn. The card also says that opponents basically skip their draw step and instead exile a card they have to play that turn or lose the card, so our opponent is forced to make a tough choice each turn. In the 4-drop slot, we have 2 copies of Atushi the Blazing Sky, Flying Trampling 4/4 Dragon that upon death creates 3 treasures, or you get to exile the top 2 cards of your library to play before the end of your next turn. I'm just trying this creature out as it only costs 4 and has a decent death trigger, but I can see me cutting these for 2 more Cavalier of Flames if this doesn't work out. I've got a copy of Legion Angel with 3 in the sideboard. You can actually play 2 of these a turn with the fires on the battlefield. An Ox of Agonas to refill our hand, 2 Showdown of the Skulls to draw more cards, and this is another good target for the dead Cavalier of Dawn. 3 Moonblaze-based Clerics to tutor for fires, or skulls if necessary, 3 Bonecrusher Giants, and 2 ambitious farmhands to find planes. And apart from the Bonecrusher Giant, interaction-wise, 2 Lightning Strikes, mainly for Greasefangs and Planeswalkers, 2 Cinderclasms to help not getting run over by mono-red, 2 Abrades for vehicles, and a hefty 26 land mana base to help with a highish curve. If we don't find Fires of Invention, our creatures are 5 mana creatures. So anyway, let's see how we do on the ladder and what changes I may make going forward. Okay, game 1 opening hand and lands and some interaction here. So up against Gigantha could mean a variety of different things here. So let's get the tap land out of the way, see what we're playing against. Okay, Speaker, so this could be Angels. So lead with the Bonecrusher here just to remove the 1/1. So we want to try and hold with as much life as possible till turn 4 or 5 where our creatures are. So another creature for our opponent here. Virtuoso, just get rid of that. So opponent with the Aspirant. We're going to lead with Atushi here. Get a creature down. Opponent just attacks with the Aspirant. I think we block this. And opponent has a way to remove our Atushi. One of the reasons a 2-sheet is in the deck is its death triggers. In this case, we're just going to create 3 treasures. Looking next turn, hopefully we can bring that down Bone Crusher or the Cavalier of Dawn. I chose to abrade the Aspirant in our end step with the treasures, so we could have let that damage gone through, kept our creature alive. They played a spell which isn't usual. The +3/+3. I didn't expect that, but it's fine. So Cavalier of Dawn here. It destroys up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 golem. We could have destroyed our treasure there to create a 3/3. But we don't need to do that. The Cleric here is a great card. This is going to allow us to tutor a enchantment and put it on top of our deck. So we take the Fires of Invention. That's what we're here for. And play down our giant. So we could do with some kind of card draw here. Our hand is looking quite bleak at the moment. The good thing about the Cleric in our hand is we can tutor up an enchantment as before, but this time we can look for Fable or we can look for Showdown of the Skulls. So opponent is running out the Gigantha here. I guess that means they don't have too much in their hands here. We are going to struggle to get through Gigantha, but Fires of Invention will allow us to start playing multiple spells a turn if possible. So I looked for the Showdown of the Skulls here, threw that on top for next turn. I was happy to lose a creature here to get through an extra 3 damage. Opponent is on 9. The Vigilance on the Cavalier here proving its worth with the 5/5 Gigantha not able to get through. So we'll be looking for a bit of gas here. Opponent has more cards. Presumably they're running some spells which could avoid blockers. So God's Willing, probably in their deck. But we'll have a look to see what we draw here with Showdown. So our Sculpt here, not a particularly good hit. Farmer hand, will find us a Plains. Not really after any more land here. We have quite a lot of it. We'll take a Plains to thin out our deck slightly. That was a pretty disappointing Showdown. Not a lot we can do. So there is a Coven ability on this farm hand here, where if you control 3 creatures with different powers, it can transform to a 3/3 lifelinker. May as well do that and get in there. Like I said, opponent is on 9 life, so just attack with the Cavalier here. We are also only on 10 life, and if the opponent has already shown that they are playing some pump spells, so I have to be slightly wary of that. Now, 4 attackers worries me. There's a whole multitude of spells to get through 10 damage here. So, blocking wise, I think my main thought here is just not to die. So, I don't mind losing a couple of creatures. So for the opponent to win here, they would need several spells, one after the other, pumping up their creatures. Throwing everything behind a couple of creatures here would mean that they would need some very specific pump spells to get through. So let's just see how this resolves. Now, if the opponent can't win now, they are pretty incentivized to pump the lifelinker here to allow some lifelink. So boosting the Gigantha now gives it trample. Another charge through here. So that's trample on the Luminancer, plus it pumps from its own ability, and the opponent puts us down to 1. So we got there. Not sure what else the opponent can have here. It was a tight game there. Our showdown was pretty lame, but we got there. On to game 2 now. Opening hand. Again, more early interaction, so let's see what our opponent brings here. Having a look at their hand for a while. So another Gigantha. So again, it could mean a plethora of different decks. So we do have fires in our opening hand this time. So if we can try and find a way to get that down. Turn 4, we should be in good shape. Opponent leads with the elves. Just Bone Crusher that. So Gruul for our opponent. Another Mana Dork. Again, we're just going to keep the opponent as creatureless as possible until we can play our Fires of Invention and then start dropping down our haymakers. Oh, Risen Reef. So probably a combo deck here. So without the the fourth land there, we are pretty incentivized to just take out the Risen Reef. So we're not in the greatest position here. We do have the Bone Crusher Giant we can play, but the opponent, obviously now it's confirmed that they are looking to combo off here with a Burgi and Ignis. So Fires and the Giant here. I mean, this is the turn where the opponent could win. A Coco, the right hits would allow them to infinitely cast Ignis, create mana, and then hit us with a burn spell. They're unable to do that. Terror of the Peaks here, fantastic, as we're able to play Urabrask as well. So that's 4 damage to a target. We'll take out Burgi. Urabrask has haste. Attack for 8 damage here. Now we do have a Castle Ardenvale online here, so that does create a 1/1, and with Terror of the Peaks on the battlefield, we are going to start being able to do 1 damage to targets as well. So we'll just take out the elf, keep them on their 5 mana. Opponent with another Coco. Let's see what they find this time. I do like our position if we can avoid combos here. So a Burgi and a Risen Reef with a Steamkin. So we just fingers crossed here that the opponent bricks on their draws and is unable to fully utilize their mana here, because I'm pretty sure we're going to win next turn with our Terror of the Peaks. Second copy of Fires in our hand, not too useful here. Tap land for our opponent, just the 1 red mana. Okay, Urabrask ensures that we draw basically an extra turn in an extra card in our upkeep. We do have to play it. We would have played it anyway. It's another Cleric. Now doing 3 damage to a target. I guess we could attack the opponent's face here, but I think the cleanest solution here is just to take out the opponent's creature. Remove some blockers. In the Castle Ardenvale here, fantastic. Removing the Risen Reef or the Runaway Steamkin. Taking out the Reef this time, and we'll just attack with a team, they can block a 4/4, but take in just enough damage to kill them. So that was a good show of how well Terror of the Peaks and Castle Ardenvale works in this deck. On to game 3. Okay, game 3. On the draw, we have our Lightning Strike here, Legion Angel, Terror of the Peaks. So Legion Angel with our fires is fantastic. Get to play 2 a turn. Opponent with Authority of the Consoles. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Not really sure what they're up to. Presumably a life gain deck. Redain. Okay. Redain could be a problem, but we'll just deal with that now. Okay, a lot of land we've drawn here. We're looking for some spells we can cast to put the opponent under a bit of pressure here. Fable of the Mirror Breaker would be nice. Bone Crusher Giant would be nice. Opponent with the backside of Redain. Interesting. So we'll lead here with our Angel. And grab another one to put in our hands. So just drawn a Cinderclasm. Not sure how well that's going to work here. Opponent fires up their Barons. So if they're just going to fire up their Barons each turn, Cinderclasm isn't going to be too great. I put the Cinderclasm in the deck to deal with some of the more aggressive decks that I was facing. Originally this deck was a mono red deck, and I probably can evolve the Cinderclasm into a different board wipe, and probably will do that. So a lot of land for us here. Opponent with... Well, opponent... I'm not really sure what they're up to at the moment. Some kind of... a life gain deck is what I'm presuming. Not a lot going on though. So we're struggling to do a bit of damage here with the Protector Shield. Opponent's just going to keep firing up their Cooling Barons, which is going to be a problem as our blockers are going to struggle to deal with this with the Authority of the Consoles. There's our fires, which is what we're looking for. So we'll play the Angel here. Again, comes in tapped. So our spot removal will have a problem dealing with the Barons if it is pumped any further. I guess we're just going to remain patient, see what they do. But opponent is still on 21 life. They attack with our 6/6. I think we block here. I think it's too much damage to go down next turn. Drawing our Ganjo. That would have been nice a couple of turns ago, but land isn't great here. So I'm attacking because I can't see a way of us winning this without being aggressive ourselves. If we can put the opponent on a clock, then maybe they will be less likely to attack with their Barons and play some spells. These consoles are causing a problem though. Opponent attacks again with the Barons. We're not running any Field of Ruin in this deck. Maybe that is a consideration in the future, but I guess sometimes things are just stacked against you. Another land. We're really flooding here. Can't really see a way out of this. Presumably the opponent has plenty of removal in their hands, and there's their approach to the second sun. Okay, so that's what they've been doing. They've been waiting to play that, so that gives us a few turns now to try and kill them. Again, let's get in there with one angel. So the Cinderclasm, pretty redundant here. The opponent had the second approach in their hand anyway. I think they completely played us that game. Maybe I didn't play that particularly well. However, I'm not sure we would have particularly won that. So on to game 4. And a nice hand, some decent top-end creatures there. No white mana, which would have been nice in that particular turn. Opponent on Grixis, not playing anything themselves. So more spells we can't cast. So we are pretty much hoping for a target for this Lightning Strike. Or we're going to be going a few turns without doing anything. Opponent with Orb of Dragonkind. So this could be a Dragon deck, a combo deck. Nicol Bolas deck, could be anything. But we'll lead with Fires of Invention, I think. Put a bit of pressure on our opponent here. The Legion Angel is great as it, if it's removed, it's done its job. It's put another spell in our hands that we can cast next turn with Fires of Invention. Opponent did tap their blue mana, so if they're holding a counter spell, that was a good time to get that down. We're not under any particular pressure at the minute, so I was happy to put the creature out instead of the Lightning Strike. Opponent with a Gold Span, their attack. It's an easy block. Okay, they march our Legion Angel anyway, so not a problem. We have another one in our hand. We would have blocked, like I said, the dragon that turn. Alright, Mountain is great as that's going to allow us to play our Terror of the Peaks first. Meaning all of our 4/4s now are going to do 4 damage to the target. So we're just going to target the dragon here. Keep that off the battlefield and then we can attack with itself, the 4/4. Alright, Urobresk means that the opponent's skips their draw step. Instead, they exile the top card of their library. They have to play that this turn, or it goes into exile forever. It is a Nicol Bolas. They do have 4 mana. They probably wouldn't have wanted to play that this particular turn with our Terror of the Peaks on the battlefield, but pretty incentivized to do so. We need to discard a card. We'll just discard our farmhand. They know we have the Legion Angel. They know they're going to lose their Nicol Bolas this turn. We also exile the top card of our library as well as drawing. We get to play the Cavalier of Flames. Opponent sees it right on the wall. And yeah, that's a nice easy victory. That showed the Urobresk in working. Game 5, more early removal, which is nice. See what our opponent leads with. Orzhov and the Thoughtseize. Okay, I wonder what they take here. So if opponent's on Orzhov, I'm guessing a Greasefang deck maybe. Opponent takes our Abrade. I think that confirms that particular fact. So there's a couple of different versions of Greasefang we need to be aware of. I've played with the deck a lot, and I know that even an opponent holding open black or red mana is enough to not want you to necessarily lead with a Greasefang. So we're going to hold this Lightning Strike. They do know we have it in our hand. It does 3 damage. It is in there for this particular reason. Opponent chooses not to play a card. So we'll just take our time. We're under no rush. So one of the things we've got to remember is with Fires of Invention on the battlefield, we can only play spells on our turn. So that is something to be mindful of. Not everybody knows that that is the case, so I'm hoping that our opponent may not realise that particular fact. deciding what to do here. Deciding whether to play the fires, keep ourselves open here. Now, the opponent does have Seasoned Hallowblade on the battlefield, so we do want to kill that. It's going to be hard to kill it. The opponent will discard a card and make it indestructible. We can target it in our in their pre-combat main phase to tap it. I'm thinking I should have done that before. I let that go too far. The fact I didn't play Fires of Invention meant that I should have remembered that I needed to do this before their attacks, but oh well. We'll attempt to kill it anyway. It's already in combat, so we're already going to take some damage if they discard a card, and as predicted, they discard the Parhelion. So now Parhelion's in the graveyard. The rabbit's out of the cage. We can play accordingly, knowing that that is the case. Just got to hope the opponent doesn't necessarily have a Greasefang in their hand. So one of the ways I'm going to hope to do that is to see if I can discard their hands by constantly targeting the Hallowblade here. So we'll get the Bone Crusher down. Could have used the Lightning Strike there on the Hallowblade, but that does leave us open for a Greasefang. So I still haven't played the Invention yet, Fires. I'm just wary until I can have a better board state. I'm just gonna keep targeting this Hallowblade and see if they keep discarding their hand. So this isn't maybe the optimal way to play against this deck, but it's what I chose to do. Normally you would just hold open your burn spells until on the opponent's turn, but I do really want to get Fires of Invention down. I'm not running any specific graveyard hate in this deck. Obviously that's a consideration. I try not to be too reactive to what the opponent may or may not do. Alright, a Braid's an interesting draw there. Obviously that can remove artifacts, destroy artifacts. So I'm a bit unsure exactly how to continue playing this game. I really want to get this Terror of the Peaks down. I really want to start doing some damage to my opponent here. But I'm very wary that I don't leave the door open for a Greasefang. So we'll just play slightly defensive. See if they can make the first move here. So I'm pretty sure the opponent has a Greasefang in their hand. I've been in this situation many times on the other side of the table, and just the open mana is more than enough reason to not play it, unless you've got two in your hand, or the card that returns a creature from the graveyard. Then it's probably best not to play out your Greasefang. I'm just going to take some damage here. You don't really want to get too low with this deck. If you leave it too much, the opponent can sometimes hardcast at a very sort of last resort their vehicles. Just another reason why to keep a Braid in our hand for the moment. So Hazoret here, indestructible creature, an annoying creature to play against. Also for 2 and a red, you can discard a card and do 2 damage. It's a good way to get some small damage incrementally throughout the game. I think I'm going for Fires of Invention here, as I need to start making some progress myself. Play our Terror of the Peaks. So I'm happy to block with the Giant. I have another Terror in my hand. Opponent with the Heartless Act anyway. Okay. So now I can't play spells on my turn. I'm hoping that the opponent, if they do have a Greasefang in their hand, they don't realise that I can't actually cast my Abrade. And they lead with the Harvester instead. So right now I'm thinking that maybe the opponent doesn't have Greasefang, as either they didn't realise I couldn't cast Abrade that turn, or they just don't have it. So there's not a lot going on at my end. I am debating whether to use the Abrade. If the opponent does hardcast their vehicle at any point, this is a great answer to that. So targeting the Hollow Blade will mean that the opponent does have to start discarding cards. And if we can do this enough, then they're top decking. And then if we can find an Urabresk, the opponent is incentivized to cast their card that they draw each turn, which should swing the game in our favor. So I do attempt to blow up the Hollow Blade here. I did think about attacking with the Bugbear and changed my mind, I believe. I think I just have to play it cool here. I'm hoping that we do need some card draw, so I'm hoping to find some way to draw some cards. Alright, so we are empty-handed. So if the opponent has Greasefang, this is their time to play it. And they don't. And Ox of Agonas is an incredible draw for us here. We can cast that, discard our hand, we have no cards, draw 3 fresh cards. And I'm hoping that the game can now move into our favour. The Agonas is also going to do 4 damage to a target. To any target. Opponent has the 2 cards in their hand. So again, we can't target the Hazoret here. So I'm going to keep targeting this Hollow Blade, keep making the opponent discard their hand. See what we draw. We discard another land. A Fable, a Cleric, and a land, another land. So going for the Cleric here. Again, this is another 3 damage. Going to keep targeting creatures. We could be going to the opponent's face here, but I would worry that if the opponent draws a vampire, creates another blood, the Harvester then can tap to kill our Terror of the Peaks, which is keeping us in the game here. Next turn, Fable is nice. We'll keep the land in our hand to discard to Fable. We don't need any more lands. We already have more than enough. None of our creatures cost more than 5. Opponent loots away. Discards their Fatal Push. And here's Hazoret discarding a card, doing 2 damage. So I'm hoping that the opponent is now has nothing else they can do. Exile top 4 cards of our library until the end of the next turn. We can continue to play. We can play those. Not the greatest draws in the world. Would have preferred some larger creatures. Trying to decide exactly how to close this game out here. The Clerics are going to do another 3 damage. I'm going to keep targeting the Hollow Blade. Opponent now has to decide what they're going to do with that card. They discard it. It's just another land. We get to tutor out a enchantment. Putting Fable on the top. We have our showdown on the battlefield and the other one in exile at the moment. And now we can start getting in there. So we attack with our 3 large creatures. So Hazarat, indestructible, can easily block one, get another 4 damage through anyway. We've got our Den of the Bugbear, which I don't mind losing. We have a lot of land, the 2 clerics, and opponent scoops it up. So not sure if that was the best way to play against that deck, but we got there. Okay, so that went pretty well. I really enjoy playing this deck. It's quite a fun deck to play. I think I need to have a little look at my removal. Cinderclasm not working so well there. The Lightning Strike did alright. I think our Cleric, our Giant, and our Fable were pretty good. We didn't really get to see Fable work too well. I have had a game where when the Fable turns the Kiki-Jiki and the Kiki-Jiki copies a Cavalier of Flame, I was able to ping our opponent each turn when it sacrificed itself at end of turn. That game wasn't recorded. That was before I started doing this, as I was just looking at the cards within the deck. The card draw situation, the Ox works brilliantly at the end there, and Showdown is a great card if you get your drops. I really quite enjoyed the Atushi. Didn't really get to see too much of it, but the fact you can create the treasure to play any further spells on that particular turn, or exile and play the top 2 cards of your library when it dies is great. And Urabresk, I think that card sort of low-key did pretty well here. It made our opponents have to make certain decisions that maybe they wouldn't want to. Maybe that Nicol Bolas deck, the opponent didn't actually want to play that card that particular turn, as they could see with our Terror of the Peaks and our Legion Angel in our hand, that they were going to lose it immediately anyway. So I'm going to keep playing with this deck. Probably have a look at the mana base and those low-down creatures. I did think about switching the Atushi for 2 more Cavalier of Flames. I may do that, but I haven't played with Cavalier of Flame enough to see if that is a viable option yet. So I'm going to keep playing with this and see if I can make any changes. But until next time, goodbye.